and yeah, we will start now.
Okay.
Okay. So my name is Manca Švara, and I'm from Slovenia. I'm a provisional member of the IAP, coming from the Slovenian Association of Analytical Psychology and the Epiona Institute. And it's really a great honor to host today Dr. Vamik Volkan, who has generously agreed to share with us his insights and vast experience in a lecture named Border Psychology, Trauma, Human Aggression, and Healing. We will very probably also talk about his recent book that was published this February by Vamik Volkan and his son, Kevin Volkan, titled Human Aggression, War, and Genocide, The Psychological Roots of Violence. I already put the link in the chat, or not, but I will do it later. But I'm here today also as a member of the steering committee of the Analysis and Activism group, which I've been part since September 2023. This Jungian, but not only Jungian, community explores society and politics through an analytical lens, bridging the gap between analysis, activism, political engagement, and humanitarian work. But I'm here today also as a researcher of the so-called border psychology. I borrowed this term from Dr. Volkan, together with my colleagues in Slovenia, Austria, and Italy, an interdisciplinary team of anthropologists, historians, filmmakers, and therapists. Dr. Katja Hrobat-Virložet, Martina Tonet, Jure Kreft, Stefan Čok, Marko Galic, and Daniel Buti. I think some of them are also here today, so hi. So initially this talk was meant for us, as Dr. Volkan agreed to lecture for the team, but I thought it was a great way to maybe combine both these things. In the next 2 years, this team, we will be researching new perspectives on intergenerational trauma, focusing on this border region, where our aim is to develop therapeutic workshops and an educational film about this theme, but also to develop resilience and understanding for various initiatives and lectures in schools and in public. The project was funded by the European Union and is titled RE for Healing, Cross-Border Remembrance, Reconnection, Restoring, and Resilience. So I hope this talk will be useful to us as well before we start the project in April. I have a short introduction, but I know that everyone already knows Vamik Volkan. So Dr. Vamik Volkan is a Turkish Cypriot American psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, renowned for his contributions to psychopolitical analysis and conflict resolution. As a professor emeritus of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, he founded the Center for the Study of the Mind and Human Interaction, focusing on large group identity, trauma, and diplomacy. His extensive work has shaped the understanding of transgenerational trauma, collective mourning, and the psychology of societal conflict. Having authored over 50 books, he has received prestigious international awards, including the Sigourney Award and the Sigmund Freud Award. As President Emeritus of the International Dialogue Initiative, he continues to foster dialogue between groups in conflicts worldwide. So, Dr. Volkan, now the floor is yours.
Well, I'm so happy that at the end, at least I can talk to you. Hello, everybody. I was asked by Manca to talk about political borders, migrations, and so on. And these topics are related to large group identity. Large group identity in everyday language are expressed like we are Palestinians, we are Slovenians, we are Jews living in Lithuania, we are Sunni Muslims, we are communists, and so on. If you allow me, let me tell you a little bit about myself, how I got involved in international relations. As you know, whether you are Freudian analyst or Jungian analyst, we are not literally involved in international relations. I was born in Cyprus when Cyprus was a British colony. And I don't know, many of you, some of you may be in Cyprus, a nice island. My next door neighbors, when I was growing up, were Greeks. My first love was a Greek girl next door. uh, so, but when you grew up, they were, all kind of things in society, so that a Greek person would not marry a Turkish person, etc. There are exceptions, of course. So I went to Turkey for my medical education, and after I became a physician, I started to work at the university hospital, and they did not give me any salary because I was a British person, not a Turkish person. And at that time, they did not have enough physicians in America. This is also true today. And they had something called brain drain. So I found a job in Chicago, and with $15 in my pocket and my violin, how crazy I was. I came to America. And after I had my psychiatric training at University of North Carolina, my salary was very low because I was a foreigner. They told me that they would give me $25 more every month if I worked at a state hospital. And after I finished my residency, I was sent to a state hospital. This was in the 1960s, for God's sake, just like yesterday. And state hospital was called Cherry Hospital. I went there, and it was only for African Americans. In 1960s, still racism in America was incredible. So I got interested in traumatized societies. I got interested in racism and so on. And when I later on opened a center at the University of Virginia to study societal things, it was because of a man I never met. It was the president of Egypt, who had gone to, not after 1974 war between Arabs, especially Egypt and Israel. Anwar Sadat went to Israel in 1978, and he declared that 70% of the problems between Arabs and Israelis are psychological. He talked about a psychological wall. And at that time, American Psychiatric Association had a committee on international relations, and they had Indian and Pakistani psychiatrists to observe, and apparently these psychiatrists fought. And because of that, they had a Turkish American, me, and Greek American psychiatrists. We were guinea pigs. They were going to observe us, how a Greek and Turk, these American psychiatrists were going to observe us. But Anwar Sadat changed this, and we were asked to go to see what is this psychological wall between Arabs and Israelis. And all the Americans went there, but Greek guy who is now one of my best friends, and I were not allowed to go. To make short, at the end, we also went there, and I became the head of this committee. And I and my Greek friend, we went to Israel and Egypt. And because of the American government's interest, we were able to to start a process, which otherwise would be impossible. Process was to bringing together extremely high-level Egyptians and Israelis for a dialogue, like the best friend of Anwar Sadat from Israel, General Shlomo Gazit, who was in charge of, he was the most famous general and in charge of Gaza. And so I'm bringing these people together, somewhere is Austria or America or somewhere. We had no idea what to do really. And we also asked Palestinians to come to this meeting. And a young Palestinian psychiatrist came to the meeting, and he sat next to General Gazit. And I'm conducting this meeting. And I noticed that this young Palestinian psychiatrist became very anxious, and he put his hand in his pocket. And I thought, that he had constipation anxiety. After all, I'm a Freudian sitting next to General Gazit. But then he said, as long as I have this, I can tolerate everything. I can tolerate masochism. I can tolerate sadism. And this turned out to be a small piece of stone painted with Palestinian flag colors. And this is how I got to know that sometimes, under certain circumstances, we hold on our large group identity more than our personal identity. And then I became also aware that I had seen this in clinical setting. Talking about early 1970s, when I became a psychoanalyst, one of my patients was a Jewish American. His family had moved from northern part of America to Virginia. And he was a dentist, and he wanted to hide his Jewishness because he was afraid that if people in Richmond, Virginia knew that he was a Jewish person, they would not come to see him as a patient. And his daughter was raised as such, who later on fell in love with a Christian American, very rich Christian American, got married, hiding her Jewishness. And this was one of my first cases. So we sometimes have this large group identity issues. This Palestinian psychiatrist told us that at that time, 1978, in Gaza, Palestinians, all of them, whatever, many of them had the same stone colored with Palestinian colors. And when they went out, they had this stone with them, their large group identity. And when they saw a Israeli soldier or something like that, they would touch their large group identity and keep it within themselves, so to speak. So large group identity became something that I became interested and wanted to study this, and I wanted to have other people, because no profession really can understand international relations. So I had a diplomat and I had a historian, and we opened a center. And this center would have become an intellectual arena. And I would say intellectual things like I'm doing right now, but nothing else. And another person whom I would meet later changed my life. It was Mikhail Gorbachev. As you know, during those days, communists and Americans would not talk to each other. And after Gorbachev became the head of Soviet Union, he sent 5 psychologists to America to a meeting. And I was asked to go and say hello to these people. And one of them said, "Can we go out and get some cigarettes?" So we went outside, and I said to him, "Hey, Americans and Soviets don't talk, but I had experience bringing together Arabs and Israelis. Can we do something about this?" To make it short, within a month, Soviet Duma and my stupid little center signed a contract, and we went to Soviet Union, and we, for years, had Soviet groups come to Charlottesville, and I would go to with my people to Soviet Union. And only later I learned that all the people selected for from Russia were selected by Gorbachev's government. They wanted to know what we were doing, and so after Soviet Union collapse and so on, we were able to get grants. We spent 7 years helping Baltic republics to separate from Russia, and then Republic of Georgia and so on. And suddenly, as a psychoanalyst, I found myself dealing with international relations. And I wrote a lot of books about this, obviously. So I want to say something about large group identity, that at times we hold on it more than our own large group identity, especially if there is problems. Sigmund Freud wrote about psychological, not psychological, physical borders between large groups, but it was not his main focus. And I was able to study what happens at borders. Since Manca asked me to talk about borders, my primary study was at Allenby Bridge between Israel and Jordan years ago, 1980s something, when there were problems between Jordan and Israel. I had permission from the Israeli authorities to spend a day or two at the border, Allenby Bridge. Allenby Bridge was actually, there's a bridge, and in the middle of the bridge there's a line, and one side is Israel and one side is Jordan. And they had 16 buses, but these buses were, everything was taken off, was so that you could not hide anything. 16 buses would go from Israel to Jordan and come back from Jordan to Israel. And I interviewed people working there. I spent a day, I interviewed the people came from Jordan and so on. And it was also, the Israelis had technology to listen and watch many people, important people in their homes on Jordanian side. You could see everything. And there's a river, of course, Jordan River. And by the river, they had a road, not asphalt, dirt road. And every morning they would go and sweep the dirt. And then they would go and watch to see if there's any footmarks. Can you imagine if somebody came from Jordan and so on? And protection of large group identity under these conditions was fantastic for me to study. And as you know that let me see. This protection of large group identity becomes extremely important if there is a sense that there is a danger. So I came up with a description. I describe a large group like thousands or millions of people living under a tent. And of course, they have their own personal identities, they have their university identities, sports identities, but all of them shared a large group identity. So on this tent, they would put large group symbols. And then I studied two separate tents side by side and how they relate to each other. And it became important for me to realize how the memories, in quotation marks, of historical traumas become big symbols for large group identities. Let me explain to you. For example, I have been involved, let's say, well, let's go back to Cyprus, Greeks and Turks. And also I worked sometimes 3 years, I brought some high-level Greeks and high-level Turks together with my Greek friend for them have two dialogues. I can bet you now $1 million if you do this yourselves. Sometime after this process starts and they talk about present day situations, suddenly Greeks will start talking about 1453. That was the capturing Constantinople by the Ottoman Turks. And that becomes a historical event that only belongs to them. And it becomes part of large group identity. And each large group, they have such historical events that they bring up. For example, we were bringing Russians and Estonians together, and suddenly Russians would talk about Tatar-Mongol invasion 1,000 years before. And so we came up with concepts like chosen traumas. I call them chosen traumas. They would also go on and find chosen glories and so on. And without knowing, these historical events are used at the present time to develop new political issues, political movements, and without knowing them, nobody can deal with that. I mean, was invited to give talks at the United Nations, and thousands of people would listen to me, but never United Nations or other countries, anybody in their diplomatic talks are utilizing in-depth understanding of psychology between large groups. And so let me tell you what else I can tell you. Well, we see this also even today, like this it was Erik Erikson in psychoanalysis who went and talked about historical issues and talked about how human beings develop as a pseudo species, like one group on the one side of the river used a white feather, and the other one used a blue feather, so they became white feather people and blue feather people, and they would keep hold to fight to keep such identities. And so this 1937, Donald Winnicott wrote a paper. I don't remember the name of the paper. And he wrote that if the king died, a psychoanalyst would not know anything about it in the office. Didn't talk about it. And then also much later, Donald Winnicott wrote about Berlin Wall and how it was also a psychological wall, keeping opposing issues separate. And just 1 second, let me see what I can tell you. Massive traumas at the hand of the other are not forgotten. When a massive trauma occurred at the end of the other, there's a sense of victimization and exposure to dehumanization, sense of pain and open or hidden humiliation due to helplessness, sense of guilt for surviving while others perished, difficulty being assertive without facing humiliation, increase in externalizations, projections, and thus exaggeration of bad prejudice, increase in narcissistic investment in large group identity, envy towards the victimizer, and defensive identification with the aggressor, difficulty and often inability to mourn losses. So as psychoanalysts, we know about mourning process in individuals. And then I began studying mourning processes as a large group shared mourning processes. And shared mourning is extremely important to study because without that, you don't know what to do with your neighbors. This chosen traumas, they evolve as what is known as entitlement ideologies. For example, I already told you that the 1453 fall of Constantinople, today's Istanbul, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, is the Greek chosen trauma today. And then they have an entitlement ideology to deal with it. And Greeks have a name for it, for example, it's called the megali idea. Megali idea means great idea. And this entitlement ideologies is symbols of old traumas and so on are used by leaders to start new problems. And I, for example, wrote a great deal about the Battle of Kosovo, which took place in 1389 between the Ottoman Turks and Serbs, and how that was stimulated after Yugoslavia collapse, what Milosevic had done, and so on. And later on, I wrote about Osama bin Laden and others. And because of our actual activities, whenever we went to a country, we never called to be publicized. So my group kept their psychoanalytic identity very important. We never went to television. Of course, we appear on televisions here and there, but we never publicize our work. We have done, would go and talk to taxi drivers. They were wonderful in giving information about what's going on. My latest one, of course, I'm now 92 years old. I'm not doing it anymore, but my latest one was in Colombia. And I went to Colombia, and the most informative people were taxi drivers. In fact, one taxi driver who knew English, his brother was on opposite side and would tell me all kinds of things. And then go to schools and talk to the kids. And then we would talk to presidents, and everywhere they were nice. They would allow us to talk to them, leaders and prime ministers and so on. And you get some ideas about what's going on, and you see how these chosen traumas and chosen glories are reactivated and how they are used for political propaganda. So we, myself and my group, psychoanalysts, had the opportunity actually bringing together important people from opposite sides to talk about peaceful solutions. And we developed a model for these talks, and they were extremely effective, especially in places like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, later on Republic of Georgia. And after Kuwait was invaded places like Kuwait and so on, we went and helped people to using aspects of tree model to talk with their opposing parties and finding peaceful solutions. And maybe if you have time, I'll give you a summary of the tree model. And then I stop and we can dialogue. You can ask me questions and so on. Tree model, I was describing it to somebody, and next thing I know, I drew a picture of a tree. And that's why I call it tree model. First part is the root of the tree, psychopolitical assessments of the problems. You go somewhere and we do diagnosis. You need to do diagnosis and what's the problem and so on. And then the trunk of the tree is to have psychopolitical dialogues. Or we choose people and we bring them together every 4 months for 4 days to talk to each other. And then among these people we choose always would be important people who could talk to decision makers. And then after peaceful processes are accepted, building institutions to make this peaceful thinking to be in practice, so to speak. So we had tree, trunk, and branches of the tree. We would go to, for diagnosis, we would also go to what we call hot places, where tragic things happen or historical things happen. We would go there and listen to people. Then we would choose about 10 to 15 participants from each side, and we would bring them together several times a year and kind of develop a laboratory. And when this in dialogues, they would have they would develop certain things. Let me give you some examples of them. One would be the basic one after they start talking was competition. But competition about to express their chosen traumas and chosen glories. And they would have, sometimes they would have a mini conflict to see if the people like me and my colleagues can deal with it. And I'm not going to give you details, just I wrote about it, you can read it. And they would have accordion phenomena, which is very interesting. When they come, let's say first time, group A would sit on this side, group B sit on this side. And as they would say about their chosen glories and chosen bad things and so on. And they would go like this, open up, and suddenly they would come together. And getting together closer to each other would be very difficult for them. They would go, we called it accordion phenomenon. And we allowed accordion phenomenon to continue without interruptions until they would kind of play with it and they could start some kind of new thinking. I'm not making details because it will take longer time, but you can read about them. And then we would go and build branches of the tree at different places and help these people and so on. And I am very grateful that, for example, when the COVID was starting, I was asked to go back to Lithuania, and I suddenly realized how much I appreciated what we had done. And they gave me awards and so on years later. And we would go to Estonia again, and we hear from these people how they are they're using the tree model kind of situation to continue finding peaceful way of solutions. And there are people now who are working at United Nations, not my group because I retired long ago, but they consult with me, and my biggest gift on earth comes a few times a month to me, because I hear from many parts of the world, from young people who are university students, and they're using some of these concepts for their graduation thesis. And they write to me and ask me questions, or they let me know about what they're doing. And I'm so happy to receive such gifts. So I had this crazy life. And now I'm still writing books. Yeah, you mentioned the book. This is the book. Can you see it? This is the latest book I wrote with my son, Professor Vamik Volkan. And this is about basically describing what's happening today in Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, Israel, and describing the role of political leaders in making things bad or good. I don't know Russian, but I have 4 very important friends in Russia. 2 of them are against Putin, 2 of them are for Putin. So I collected data from them. And also, since I worked about 7 years in the Republic of Georgia to help them to get adjusted to their independence, and they know Russian, and I collected data about Putin's life and why, above and beyond all kind of other political, historical reasons, there are reasons, personal reasons of political leaders for starting horrible things and sometimes wonderful things. And so I spend my life writing about such things. Why don't I stop and you ask me questions, okay? And thank you for listening to me. I don't know how long I talk, but I think that's enough, huh? Manca, what do you think?
Yes, I think you have a good intuition, and I will like to open the floor for questions. I'm sure there are a lot of them, and please raise maybe just some. I hear some voice. I don't know what it is. Okay. I can see Daniel, but I will maybe just raise your digital hand or write the question in the chat and I will read it out. Okay. So okay. Daniel, I saw your question first.
Daniel, let me see if I can find Daniel.
It's me. It's me.
Oh,
you
there
very
you
much.
are.
Hello,
Okay,
hello.
Daniel. Hi.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
And you're
much.
from where? And what do you do, Daniel?
I'm from Austria. I'm from Austria, and
Austria. Well, I've been
and
there too, of course.
yeah, we have the situation here between the Slovene minority in Austria and the German-speaking majority. So
And do
your
you know that
theories.
Turks and Greeks in Austria, they're almost same district, across the street from each other, same old thing. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
It's really interesting. I really like your and your theories were really helpful to understand the situation here too. And I use them in my lectures in social
Yes.
psychology.
Yes.
And I'm also a psychotherapist.
Yes.
When I take your theory about the chosen trauma, I would be really very interesting. How would you connect your idea to some kind of real trauma? Because the chosen trauma is something, it can be old, it can be centuries ago, decades ago. And how
Yes.
would you personally state chosen trauma connect with real traumatization? For example, real traumatization of Yugoslavian war, real
Yes.
traumatization
Yes.
of
Yes.
National Socialism, and
Yes.
so on. This would be really interesting to hear from you.
Well, I mean, there's a real trauma today, and the leader connects it when he or she talks about it. It connects it and induces malignant propaganda. Is to connect what's going on with this chosen ones, and then you look for a savior, and the leader presents himself or herself as the savior, and you go and follow him or her. And obviously, the leader can be a narcissistic one. We know about those kind of things nowadays, especially. But then they can be reparative or they can be destructive. Destructive ones, they put the blame on something else and they want to attack. And reparative ones, they say, well, let's look at everything about ourselves too and find a better solution for it. So in Australia right now, what is the present day problem?
Yes, it's Austria with the border to Slovenia. So we have the Slovenian minority here, and they
Yes.
claim to be the first here, and then the German speakers came.
Yes.
So it's ethnical and
Of course.
large group identities, and factually
Yes, yes.
all are the same.
I was in Slovenia a few times, and
Mm,
he talks about this thing. I don't know if you are there. Yes, I know,
yeah.
and it's yep.
Thank you very much. I will contribute maybe later again. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. I can see Peter.
Yes, Dr. Volkan, it's just a pleasure to be listening to you. I've been reading your books since Killing in the Name of Identity.
Yes.
And there are 6 of my students here who are also studying with your son this quarter in his psychopathology class. And
really?
and all of us will be reading your large group psychology book next quarter in a group theory class. And
this little one.
Yes, that's the book.
Yeah, that is a good summary of my ideas. Wonderful. Yes.
It's excellent. It truly is, and we'll be reading it together. And one of my questions to you, and that we are exploring at Pacifica with our students, is in relation to what you spoke of entitlement ideologies and the opportunity for a psychologist or some type of practitioner to intervene at a group level in entitlement ideologies. And I'm curious to what you think about our opportunities to change group identity in some manner as practitioners.
Well, you find ways to write about it or talk about it, and so the public can hear you. I think you have to find some ways to appear in newspapers and describing these issues.
So at that level, we'd be responding to group identity at the level of hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands at least.
Yes, I know. It is very difficult. I mean, unless you become a special person. There's no quick answer to this. But you see, our learning these things and talking about these things are very new, almost maybe 40, 50 years. And not many people now, I'm very happy that what I told you, young people are becoming very interested, and you were interested, and so on. So people becoming interested, and I hope that after I die and disappear and so on, this will be part of area that very important to study and talk about it, and people will know about it, so that when the conflicts occur, they will also say, hey, there's also psychological issues involved in it, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, but we need to look at them, or something like that. So keep writing and talking.
Well, I so appreciate the way you've shown us a path. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for your interest.
Any other questions, maybe?
Manca, you had some questions to me. I don't know where I put it.
Yeah, I know. I prepared. I would maybe like to start with the Winnicott quote, because I really like it, and I think it's a good way to.
I'm trying to find out where you wrote it.
Yeah, but I can read it.
Yeah, Winnicott. Yeah, I have it, but you can read it.
So, okay. I really liked it. It's from your book about immigrants.
Yes.
Okay, so the quote goes, at its worst, a border postpones conflict. At its best, it holds opposing forces apart for long enough that people may play and pursue the arts of peace. Such arts, he said, belong to the temporary success of a dividing line between opposing forces. The lull between times, between the wall, has ceased to segregate good and bad.
Yes.
So my question was, how much time do you think must pass before we can begin to work on dismantling the projections we place onto one another in the context of opposing nations or
Well, if you are in the United States, you're not going to be able to do that constantly. I mean, it is so typical that you have your balloon, you're under it, and you're afraid somebody going to make a hole and come in. And of course, technology change, world change, everywhere. My God, when I was in Berlin a few years ago, and I went out just to walk somewhere, and I thought I was in Istanbul. Everybody was talking Turkish. So it's the technology. You push a button and you're there. You push a button, you're there. How we are going to adjust to that? And I used to have a fantasy that when Martians come, we'll all get together against Martians. And then COVID came. You know what happened? I thought COVID would be like Martians. No, everybody, first thing they did was making their borders more safe and protected, which is, of course, realistically, that's good. But people didn't get together. You see, went back to their large group identity and they protected their border.
Mhm.
And if you are in America, constantly Trump is morning too. Every day he's talking about bad
Mhm.
things are coming in and so on. Which is also to some extent is true. I mean, so many people are moving to so many different places, and how this are going to settle, I cannot tell you. You are much younger than I. You will find out some more. So keep studying it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I can see Tina has a question.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Tina Papic.
Yes.
Jungian analyst from Slovenia.
Yes.
I have one maybe more theoretical question. If we
Okay.
read, for instance, Bion or Jung, there is this idea that the leader is somehow expression of the group. You know, like Trump is kind of an expression of the current, let's say, climate or culture,
Yes.
current happening, or Hitler. But here is also the question, how much is this kind of a dialectics that on the other side the leader influences the group?
Oh, both ways. It is a two-way street, and sometimes influence from one side comes more, and other time comes from the other. If you live in America right now, every minute that you turn television on, you see Trump saying that we are being invaded by bad guys, rapists, mental health problem people constantly. And so people are his followers are who think like him increasing, and he won. And at other places there are maybe leaders who are different than Trump, but it's amazing in the 20th century. At this time, it's still the human psychology is the same, and it's still influencing a lot of political processes. I mean, from beginning from the beginning of the human nature. So us meaning you guys listening to me, this is why I'm so happy that you're interested in what I wrote, and you are also studying it, and younger people are studying it, and hopefully we will be able to have more influence by developing large group identity issues and political psychology to influence people and have, for example, have UN real expert in this area, so that when they have opposing people get together, listen to them and help them, like tree model type things and so on. Yeah. But it's interestingly, Arab countries are doing it. I was invited to some meetings, and they are interested. The sheikhs and so on I met, they were interested to find out more ways to find peaceful understanding between Muslims and Christians, for example, or Jewish people. So there are some movements to bring psychological understanding to what we are observing and what we are living in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Okay. We have Stefano.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Volkan. My name is
Yes.
Stefano Carta from Italy.
Yes.
I would like to pick up the question that Peter posed before. I've been a member, part of this movement, Analysis and Activism, for many years.
Yes.
And we were very much involved about basically the question of how could we act,
Yes.
do things about
Yes.
issues that have a lot to do with peace and war and conflict and
Yes.
displacement, this kind of things.
Yes.
So the question of about what we can do, I think, is crucial. And I want to ask you what is your opinion about this issue, because my feeling is that our paradigms and theories and techniques about therapy, about
Yes.
healing, are all based upon an individual basis.
Yes.
Whereas all around the world, anthropologically, ethnographically, that's not the case. Healing has always been considered as something that maybe starts by an individual to the group, for the group, in the group.
Yes, of course.
So I think that my feeling is that we need to rethink our perspective, because we're using our binoculars upside down or the other way around, and change our paradigms about the idea that because if we keep using our methods as if we have individuals, as if the group is an individual, it won't work.
Yes, you're right.
Our task is complicated because we have to change our own vision in a way, looking around ourselves anthropologically. What do you think about this? Thank you.
Well, I think I have the same. If I would ask the same question to you. I mean, we are, in spite of the fact that starting from Freud and so on, or Jung, people discuss mythology, history, all these things are discussed, but in-depth understanding large group psychology is, as I said, is rather new. So my suggestion that we teach these things to our students, and if there are groups that they want to do something, you may become a member of them and try to be helpful. Again, as I told you, I'm trying to find ways, which I have not found yet, to make it very serious part of UN. UN should have a group of people who are really experts, who wrote books, who study large group psychology, in being consultants to conflicts. But I mean, I have no voice. I mean, I say it, but people are hearing me, and I hear that people who can say things at UN, they are saying it now, but I don't have a voice to go to UN and say, hey, this is done. American psychologic associations or your European associations and so on are becoming more prepared to have conferences or papers on this topic to be discussed at their meetings. For example, the International Psychoanalytic is meeting in Lisbon. And I cannot go because I have arthritis and pain, so I have a difficult time walking. But they're going to have a meeting, for example. They're going to show a movie that was made about my ideas. And some of my colleagues, like very close to me, they're going to be there, and they're going to have a big meeting about this kind of thing at the International Psychoanalytic meeting in Lisbon. Before We didn't have those things at that level. Now slowly there's more and more interest. As I say, I get emails from young people, so many people that I never had before. So there is, and you are interested, you asked me to talk to you. So I'm asking you also that pay more attention and do some work in this area.
Thank you. I would like to maybe read one comment, or maybe Anne, I don't know if she's here with us. She wrote in the chat.
Okay.
Anne? No? So she says she's from Sydney in Australia, and she says
Yes,
we have a
yes,
situation.
yes, what I didn't is not here now.
She's here? No. I will read it. I think it's more a comment, but she's commenting. We have a situation here of slow genocide through settler colonization. Indigenous Australians, 2% of the population, are having a nasty time after a failed referendum with the right-wing drift. We are seeing more racism, incarceration, and suicide of young Indigenous people. I take your point about a special person, usually here an Aboriginal sports person. Unfortunately, the media in Australia has really jumped on the transgressions of Aboriginal youth. Aboriginal people are extremely evolved in treatment of each other and the land, but not individual ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to Australia too, and I noticed things like that. Yes, it was very difficult to be able to get to know the Indigenous people and talk to them. We're kind of protecting or not allowing me or my group to do something. Yeah.
Okay, we have Daniel, one question again.
Okay.
Thank you. It's me again, Daniel, from Australia again to Austria. So, of course, when we take, for example, the Aborigines and then settlers, there are more differences, let's say, than Slovene-speaking Austrians and German-speaking Austrians. Or even when we go to Cyprus, we have the Turks and the Greeks there, and I'm sure they have very much in common. And then large group identities are built, and they are built like identity and alterity. And it's like a binary situation here. So we have an idea here of dialogic peace building in a region where a lot of a large group identities come together, but they grew over centuries together and they have so much together. They might be separated by language today. They might be separated by, I mean, ideas of constructing identity, these large group identities. I wanted to say, what do you think about, or have you seen ideas of building mutual third large group together when two alternatives come together and build a third identity, build something new? How is it possible to come together, let's say? I hope I put it clear.
Well, you should ask that question to a historian, really. It's for example, during Ottoman period, there were groups that who were not Muslim, and they change. Like in Albania, if you go to Albania, you see more. But that created then within Albania created divisions. So as I said, like when COVID came, what happened was not getting together, but again holding on your own group and protecting your own group. So it takes centuries or something for like under Ottomans, some Christians becoming Muslim and so on. And now in America, my God, I was just telling you in 1960, when I was in North Carolina, my God, the black people could not sit in the same bus. Can you imagine? This was yesterday. And now, mainly through television, you see more black people, they're talking and expressing opinions, and they are reporters and so on. It's changing, but has not changed yet. Has not changed yet. So in many countries, there are many kind of issues like this, and at the same time, the borders are becoming more open because of the technology and travel and so on. It's going to be a different kind of world. We need more world leaders. We need more voices, not like the ones that still really doing things in order to keep their own name up. Yeah. I don't know in Europe if you sense that there are potential leaders that will be more useful for making relationships more peaceful. I don't know. Certainly in America right now, I don't know whether I have to laugh or not to laugh or cry. I mean, it's becoming very funny. Yep. So this is why I'm so happy when you asked me to talk about this. And more people are asking to pay attention to large group psychology. Young people. Young people.
Yeah.
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 I was in Slovenia about twice, long time, yeah.
I hope you liked it.
I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. And I drove around at so many places and areas. Yep.
I don't want to mix up, but no one raised her or his hand. So when we speak about leaders, I think unfortunately we are in a time of demagogues and like nationalistic leaders, and unfortunately it seems there is not the time of positive leaders, inclusive leaders, and this we should somehow, I mean, need maybe, but still, when I have a leader in mind, for me it's a negative picture of a leader. It's first a man of sure, and then a leader. It's a group leader, and then this. I can't think of a current role model of a positive, inclusive figure.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Well, that's why that non-politicians like yourself need to expand interest in what we are talking today with your students, and by writing or having meeting like this. And it's extremely important. And this is why I'm 92, but it's still, I don't say no. I've been giving talks all the way from China to Slovenia. And but my time has come to, because about a few months ago, we live in a forest. Look at this. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Our
It
house
looks
is a
beautiful.
forest. And when the leaves are on, it's just, you don't see anything but leaves and so on. And I was looking, and I had a for a minute or so, I had a kind of hallucination. Everything was so unbelievably beautiful. It's beautiful, but really beautiful. And then I suddenly realized, hey, that's not bad, because I did it because I'm going to join it very soon myself to the nature underground, so to speak. So I'm so happy that you're interested in this topic, and I encourage you that please, expand it as much as you can and teach your students. And I hope this book also will be important, because we wrote about the 4 months before I was born, Albert Einstein asked Freud, 1932, why war? And Freud was pessimistic. We need to go back to that question and Freud's answers and see how we can change them and make it more, that we can offer more to understand, because human beings are very vicious animals. And I was reading a book, I forgot, it's an astronaut. Oh my God, where is that book? I forgot the name. I'm so sorry. An astronaut wrote it. Let me see. The book is here. And in this book, this astronaut wondered what will happen 10,000 years from now. And new beings will come. And then they will look at human animal and they will say human animal was so bad, fighting and aggression and so on. And he hoped that the new, what they were going to develop after us, they'll be much better, because only human beings and certain kind of gorillas kill their own kind. Lower kind animals do not kill their own kind. And as it developed, it also became aggressively more bad, worse, because we kill each other, we kill human beings. And so this astronaut's hope was that that will change in the future.
Important. Maybe I suggest just one more question. We have Ian.
Okay,
then
my
then
time
I
is
will.
here, but it's up to you.
Okay. No, okay. But I think we have this format, so 1 hour and a half
Ian,
usually. Ian, can you? Yeah. Okay. Unmute.
Yes, hello.
Hi,
Merhaba.
how are you? Merhaba.
Çok teşekkür ederiz for all.
Where did you learn Turkish?
Oh, I lived in Izmir for a few years.
Oh yeah.
In west coast of Turkey. And I'm one of the students that Dr. Dunlap mentioned. I'm one of his students. And one of the things that you were just speaking about actually was very relevant for me, because you were speaking about the aggression in the apes or in gorillas or in other animal forms. And it's a question that comes up for us a lot about evolution, and especially the evolution of the sophistication of the way that we organize ourselves socially. And, in the Middle Ages, we had religion was how we organized our societies, especially in Turkey. You have Christians, you have Muslims, you have Jews. Those sort of organize the social structures. But then when Ataturk comes, you have nationalism.
Yes.
It also brings, modernity. It brings literature. It brings many things. And there's a shadow side. Obviously, in World War II, nationalism becomes so virulent that everyone is attacking everyone over these large identity concepts. Now, I guess my question now is that since we have moved and through what Karl Popper called the open society, and he wrote the book, The Enemies of the Open Society, after World War II, and about the need to open up the borders and to create a more liberal, expansive project that would increase trade and increase agreements across borders.
Yes.
And now it seems we're moving in the opposite direction. It seems that we're pulling back. There's a very strong undertow for nationalistic movements again, for nationalistic identity or for religious identity for that matter.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think that these things are bad by default, but it suggests that there's a kind of pull in another direction. And I'm curious if you have a perspective on that from a psychoanalytical perspective. Why is it that we're drawn back into older forms of social organization at this time, I wonder?
I don't know what to say. But I mean, this is also true, I guess, throughout history. On and off, this kind of thing is happening. And well, there are unions, of course, like European unions and all these unions and so on. But my only thing that comes to my mind with this kind of question is that we are not yet adjusted to technology. Technology is you push a button, oh my God, I'm in China. I push a button, I'm in China. I have 571 students in China. I finished this year. I'm not going to do any more, but my goodness, I push a button. I've never been to China as a person. I wanted to go, and now I cannot go because of my physical condition, but I could push a button and I do this. And technology made borders, made holes, also made more borders, but at the same time made holes. And so how human beings going to adjust to it, it will take some time.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I have relatives in Izmir. I have relatives in Izmir. I taught in Izmir as a visiting professor. I love Izmir.
Yeah. A beautiful city.
Beautiful.
We have just one more question, and
okay,
Tina,
all right, okay,
maybe, and then I really finish.
Okay, Vanka, I don't care.
Yeah, I know, but
okay. I just wanted to ask, if we look at your work, it's kind of like a psychotherapy of individual, it's psychotherapy of society. So let's say society learns about its own psychology, it gets conscious about its own unconscious, as with individuals. Are you optimistic in this sense with the, let's say, some long-term trajectory of development of our consciousness?
I don't know how to answer. It was especially in Estonia that we actually dealt with what you say in society. The best friend of the president was part of our meetings. We had rectors of universities and so on, so that we were very much involved in societal changes in villages and in certain cities, universities. But to do that, there other people are doing it, but for a long time, for years, 6 years, to do that, I don't know if anybody is doing it. We had grants to do it. And it was effective in Baltic republics, especially in Estonia and also other Baltic republics. I tried to do that between Greeks and Turks and we brought again high-level Greeks and high-level Turks, government people, and so on. But they lived together, Greeks and Turks, 300 years. So when they would be comfortable and easy, they were just like brothers and sisters, singing, eating, and so on. And then they would go to the meetings and they would be, opposite, because Greeks lived under Turks so long. So I don't really call myself as a therapist of these things. I just wrote about it, described it. As I say, my hope is that in order to do it more effective, to have opening at UN or some association, that when there are conflicts, people who are educated in what we are discussing today are called to suggest how to do things more peacefully.
Okay, maybe we should stop with that. I would maybe like to say that with other colleagues we talked about your work a lot, and we think it's like a movement in a way. It's spreading, it's maybe like a tree spreading around the world, and we will try to use. And I think this is beautiful.
That's what I said, that so many young people are using some of the concepts I wrote as their thesis, and that is again the biggest gift that I've received. But
thank you. It's a big
thank
gift
you for
also
your
to
interest,
us.
your group interest, and hopefully some of you do some possibilities, because again it takes grants and money to do it, and also approval from authorities, political authorities, and that's very difficult too. But when Soviet Union collapsed, they needed it, so authorities were welcoming us. But to find welcoming authorities, you have to look into that too. Yeah.
But we received the funding from the European Union, so they see interest in that. I think it is important. So I think we thank you also for your work and theory. So thank you again for this very inspirational.
Thank you very much.
Also, it was really a great pleasure talking to you. So maybe just a technical thing, we recorded the talk, and we will put the video online as part of the Analysis and Activism Talks. I will send you the link if you want to share it with anyone.
Okay.
So I hope also that this is just the beginning of other and interesting, important initiatives from the Analysis and Activism group. So thank you all for joining us today. Good night, goodbye, and thank you, Vamik.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.